Andasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Ena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanamano Bhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Madeka Bando Matsanged Maguro Man Mahadana Man Nistarakamat Bhagya Madananda Namostute. Hari Om Tat Sat. Srimad Bhagavatam. I think we left off on 6th Canto, chapter 16, verse number 30. Shritaketa received sacred mantra from Narada Muni. He's performed bhajan of that mantra for 1 week. And after 1 week, he received some intermediate results in the form of becoming the master of Vidhadiraloka. Don't know why. And afterwards, he received the primary fruit of his bhajan, which was darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sankarsana. So starting in verse 30, the description of what he saw is being given. So this is 6:16:30. Upon reaching the shelter of Lord Shesha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chittaketu saw that he was as white as the white fibers of a lotus flower. He was dressed in bluish garments and adorned with a brilliantly glittering helmet, armlets, belt, and bangles. His face was smiling and his eyes were reddish. He was surrounded by such exalted, liberated persons as Sanat Kumara. There's a picture of this in the 6th canto, so you can go check that out for getting a sense of what Chittaketu might have saw. You can only get a sense of it. Next verse. As soon as Maharaj Chittaketu saw the Supreme Lord, he was cleansed of all material contamination and situated in his original Krishna consciousness, being completely purified. Tardarshana dwasta samasta kilbisha swastam malatam karano vyayan muni. So it says here, Tardarshana. So by the darshan of that reality, known as Sankarsana, dwasta samasta kilbisha. There was the destruction of all the kilbisha. Kilbisha means the sins. So by darshan of that reality, there was destruction of the sins. So the question comes out, well, don't you have to be free from sins before you can have darshan of that reality? To which the answer is, oh, it could be a yes and a no, but essentially you have to be pure to see that reality. So how can first the darshan come, then the destruction of the sins? So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments here that the word kilbishai means grief from separation from the Lord. From his bhajan, it seems he developed the feeling of separation from the Godhead. The feeling of separation from the Godhead, the sort of grief that comes from that before actually having darshan of the Lord, it's technically called as like purvaraga. And it's the type of separation that comes from falling in love with a person, a reality. But before you can actually like get close to that reality, so you feel you're practically separated, and you feel longing for union or communion with that reality. It's called purvaraga. It's the sprouting of love. For example, if you go and study like chapter 21 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think it's chapter 21, Venu Gita chapter. So the gopis are singing Song of Separation in Purvarag. So Kilbisha means he was feeling grief from being separated from the Lord, from not yet having darshan of the Lord. And that grief was removed by the darshan of the Lord, naturally. So this is the same sort of import to the verse. For example, Paritranaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Tradushkritam, Dharma Samstapanartaya Samabhava Yuga. You know this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Krishna is saying why he appears in the world as the avatar. And he says to deliver the sadhus, to destroy the wicked, and to reestablish the principles of dharma. Now, he can use any agent he wants to reestablish the principles of dharma, so that's not the real reason. To kill the wicked is not very difficult. Even some very powerful force of nature could accomplish that, so he doesn't need to appear for that reason. So you said, well, the main reason then is to deliver his devotees, paritranaya sadhuna. But to deliver the devotees from what? Because devotees, you can say real devotees or advanced devotees, are already elevated. Brahman Bhuta Prasanatva. They're already on the spiritual platform, so they're fully joyful. They don't lament for the past. They don't desire future. They do welfare for everyone. They're situated in pure bhakti. So how can they be in any distress? Deliver them from what? They're already in ecstasy from having attained prema. So then the purport comes, well, to deliver them from the pain of separation from that reality, direct darshan, basically. That pain can only be alleviated by actually having darshan of the Lord and actually, communing with God in a very practical way. So that is how Sri Vishwanath takes this word. Dvasta samasta kilvishay. All the sins were completely destroyed by the darshan of sankarsana. And the way Prabhupada takes it, his purport is that by taking darshan of the deity, so in the stage of sadhana bhajan, which is what we're doing, by repeatedly taking darshan of the deity, then the kilvisha is destroyed. So tad darshan then is taken as seeing the deity form of the Lord, and that purifies us of all the sins, and then we can commune with that reality. So with all the dvasta samasta kilvisha finished, swasta amala antakarana abhyayamuni. So the antakarana, of course, means like the heart, like the subtle body is called the antakarana. His heart was amala. Amala means completely pure. So swasta here is healthy. When the antakarana is completely pure, it's healthy. You're situated in health. Swasta, to be situated in health. Or the way Prabhupada has translated it in the translation is he's situated in his original Krishna consciousness. So being purified of the sins and therefore having a healthy heart, a heart that is filled with love for reality, prema. Then Abhyayan Muni, so the Muni, Chittiketu, he approached the Lord to offer prayers. Okay, next sentence, he became silent and grave. I think that's a translation of the word Muni, because Muni is often the sort of visual archetype of a Muni is like a sage who's very grave and silent. So I think that's how Prabhupada's translating it there. He became silent and grave. And because of love for the Lord, pranaya, ashru lochana, because of love for the Lord, tears fell from his eyes and his hairs stood on end, prahishtra romana mad. With great devotion and love, he offers his respectful obeisances unto the original personality of Godhead. So pravriddha bhaktya, so through bhakti, which was ever expanding, pravriddha, the devotion was ever expanding, it's already growing from sadhana to sadhya, and then in sadhya just, keeps on expanding. So through love, which was ever expanding, through bhakti, which was ever expanding, then the pranaya, the love was there. And ashru lochana, the tears began coming from his eyes. Prahishra romanamat, and the hairs were standing on end for the Adipurusha. And so he's approaching that reality with the accoutrements of his love. Just like that prayer we were mentioning some weeks ago, attributed to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where the devotees, Mama Mana Mandire, Prahanishita, my mind is like a temple, and the Lord is being invited to enter in such a temple. And there we will worship that form of the Ishtade with the accoutrements of my love. So Habe Prema Pradipe Arati Tomar, I will offer the Arti lamp. Habe Prema Pradipe, the praying Pradip, the arti lamp of prema, that we will do arti with that. And with the tears of my love, we will bathe you like this. So the devotee Tritaketu is approaching the Lord with the accoutrements of love, and he wants to offer some prayers to him. Next verse, verse 32. With tears of love and affection, Tritaketu repeatedly moistened the resting place of the Supreme Lord's lotus feet. So sa uttama shloka padabja vishtaram premashuleshayar upame hayamavu. So the Lord's feet was resting on something, it seems. Uttama shloka padabja vishtaram. His feet were resting on something. So when Tritaketu approached the place where the Lord was resting his feet, then the prema ashru, the tears of love, leshai, the drops of tears of love were sprinkling the Lord's feet. Upamehaya mohu, moistening again and again and again. Just like when we do the arti, we have this little conch shell and we put water inside. And this can be one of the meditations when you're offering the water, that this water represents the just now coming affection for the Lord. Maybe I don't feel it just yet. Just now coming. And the tears of my affection. And with that, I'm, worshiping the Supreme Lord. Okay. Because his voice was choked in ecstasy, because his voice was choked in ecstasy for a considerable time, he was unable to utter any of the letters of the alphabet to offer the suitable prayers. So prema uparuddha, his voice was choked with love. So akila varna, all the letters of the alphabet. Varna means like letters. Just like Krishna Varna, Tusha Krishna, that verse glorifying the avatar of Kali Yuga in the 11th canto, which Gaudiya says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it says, from his mouth are always coming Krishna Varna. The letters, Krishna are always coming from his mouth. That is one of the meanings of Varna. Varna has many meanings. So the Krishna Varna, or the Akila Varna, all the letters that would be required to be combined, to offer a prayer, because a prayer is composed of sounds that are combined together to put forth the meaning of the heart. But because his voice was choked up, he couldn't combine the Krishna Varnas together. He wasn't able to do so. And so not being able to do so, he was not able to offer prayers right away. Naivash Shakatam Prasaniditunu Chidam. For a long time, he was not able to offer any prayers because voice was choked up in love. Okay, so the next verse. Thereafter, by controlling his mind with his intelligence, samadhaya manomanishaya, tata samadhaya manomanishaya. So tata samadhaya means samadhi, basically. That means stilling the mind. I guess there was the uproar of love, and somehow he was able to still the mind. Samadhaya mana, able to still the mind by the intelligence, manishaya. How that was possible, I don't know. Because it just means that that means love ebbs and flows with different degrees of intensity. So when the flow is very strong, then you're not able to do anything. You're just under the force of that love. And then when it ebbs means like relaxing, right? Anyway, when it ebbs, like calms down, then one is able to do something practical. This verse glorifying the Uttama Bhagavat from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 11th, can I pull it up? 11th canto, chapter 2, verse number 45. So anyway, King Nimes asks about the Uttam Bhagavat, Madhyam Bhagavat, Kanishta Bhagavat. So there, Navayogendra, forget which one, They began giving answer and they glorified the Uttam Bhagavat. So who is the Uttam Bhagavat? I haven't called this verse in a while, so I have to look it up so I don't butcher it. Uttama Bhagavat Sri Havir says, Sarva Bhuteshu Yapasya Bhagavat Bhavam Atmanaha. So one who sees in all beings, Sarva Bhuteshu Yapasya Bhagavat Bhavam Atmanaha. He sees the Bhagavat Bhavam. So this, he sees the Lord inside all beings. That's the general meaning. It's taken like that. Or Bhagavat Bhava means he sees his own love in all living beings. And Bhutani Bhagavat Datmani, and of course he sees the Supreme Lord in all living beings. So here the verse is saying, according to the ebb and flow of his bhakti. So when the bhakti is like flowing really intensely, he just sees that all beings are situated in Krishna consciousness. The example is given of the gopis in Ras Leela after Krishna first disappears at the beginning of the Maharas. Then they're running around the forest and they're inquiring from the creepers and the trees and the deer, hey, have you seen Krishna? And they're saying that, oh, they're also like us, they're feeling separation from Krishna. Therefore, they're not saying they're not able to give any answer. So that is due because the love is very intense, going very heavy. But then when it calms down a little bit, then you can like see a little bit more practically. And you see, oh, these are different living entities. And inside each of those living entities is the Lord. Every living entity is an existential seat of the Supreme Lord. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is, how is it he was able to, by the intelligence, still the mind that is overcome with the ecstasy of bhakti? So I'm giving my intuitive understanding, because the intelligence can't be the material intelligence, obviously, which cannot stand before the light of prema. So it's like the ebb and flow of love. So now the love is ebbing a little bit, so the mind is becoming a little bit more still. So you can do something practical like offer prayer. So thereafter, by controlling his mind with his intelligence, thus restricting his senses from external engagements, he recovered suitable words with which to express his feelings. Babhusha eta pratilabdha bhagaso. Okay. Thus he began offering prayers to the Lord, who is the personification of the holy scriptures. The Saptata Samhitas, like the Brahma Samhita and the Narada Pancharatra, and who was a spiritual master of all. He offered his prayers as follows. So he begins offering prayers to the Lord. So Niyamya Sarvendriya Bhaya Bhartana. So Bhartana means the wandering, wandering around. It's a reference to the Sarvendriya, all the senses which are external and tend to wander around. Niyamya, he was able to control that also. And then he begins to offer the prayers, Jagat Gurum Sattata Shastra Vigraham, to the form of God that is Sattata Shastra, the form of God that is described in the Sattata Shastra. Sattata Shastra means, like Prabhupada's putting here in the translation, like Brahma Samhita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is also called the Sattata Shastra, just like in the verse, Anartha Pashama Saksha Bhakti Yoga Dokshaje. Lokasya Ajanato Vidvam Chakre Sattata Samhita. Srimad Bhagavatam is referred to the Sattata Samhita. So the form of the Lord that is described in these Sattata Shastras is Satchidananda Vigraha. It is a form of bliss. So Prabhupada's purport, also Sri Vishwanath's purport, is that this statement is to counteract the idea that the form of the Lord is just Maya. In Gyan Shastras, the presentation may be presented that the form of the Godhead is also just composed of the Maya Shakti. So to counteract that, it says, no, this was the form that was glorified in the Sattata Shastras. Well, how do they glorify that form? Well, they glorify it as Satchit Ananda, so as transcendence. So it's a real form, the form of Bhagavan, of course. And that form is Jagat Guru, the guru of all the worlds. Okay, we're going to do at least one more verse here, so much as I was able to study. Chittaketu Uvacha, so finally begins offering prayers. I do not know what this meter is. It's a different meter. I have to ask about it. It's not a common meter. So I don't know what the meter is for this particular verse, which is a little frustrating because I like reciting verses. Vandanam is one of my favorite angas of bhakti. And so not being able to refer. Vandanam, of course, means offering the obeisances, but the obeisances are offered with the body. It's also offered with the voice in the form of stutis, and also offered with the mind. So I like to learn shlokas for this reason. I couldn't figure this one out, so that was a little annoying. Anyway, neither here nor there. Ajita jitta samamativi sadhu bhir bhavan jitatmavi bhavata vijitas te pi jabhajatam akamatmanam ya atmano tikaruna. Chittaketu said, "O unconquerable Lord." So the Lord is described here as Ajita. O unconquerable Lord, although you cannot be conquered by anyone, you are certainly conquered by devotees who have control of the mind and senses. They keep you under their control because you are causelessly merciful to devotees who desire no material profit from you. Indeed, you give yourself to them, and because of this, you also have full control over your devotees. So here Chittaketu is offering praise to the Lord, who is conquered by his devotees and who also conquers his devotees. That is the simple import of this verse. He is Ajita, he is unconquerable, but he becomes Jitta, conquered, by the sadhubi. Sadhubi means the sadhus. So what type of sadhus? They're, Gyanis are also referred to as sadhus, yogis also sadhus, bhaktas also sadhus. So the sadhus here are the bhaktas, of course. They're said to be bhaktas because in the second line of the verse, it is said that they do bhajan without the desire, without the separate desire. Separate desires are basically two categories: the desire for mukti and the desire for mukti. Sometimes the desire for siddhi is also put in there. But the devotees are described here as doing, or the sadhu is described here as doing bhajan, which is akamatmanam, without desire. Prabhupada alludes to this verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita: Krishna bhakta nishkama anta eva shanta, bhukti mukti siddhi kame sakaliya shanta. So the Krishna bhakta is nishkam or akam, like in this verse. So he's without the separate desire. Without separate desire means, and Prabhupada's references to this purport also, anyabhilashita, shunya. He's without other desires. So there's some desire there, but he's without the other ones. So what desiredness is there? The desiredness for bhakti. That desiredness is there. The desiredness for the ever continuous evolution of love. That desire is there, but other desires are shunya, zero. So these sadhus who are like this, these sadhus means these bhaktas, they are samamatabi. So samamatabi, I think Prabhupada translated this as persons who have conquered the mind. Sama means equal. So these sadhus, they see with equality. That means in happiness and distress, they see with equal eye. In other words, in all conditions, they perform bhakti. So therefore, their bhakti is called apratiyata. Prabhupada makes this point. Ahetuki apratiyata, because their bhakti is ahetuki, without separate motive. So it is also apratiyata. It cannot be interrupted by material conditions. And for this reason, they are called as samamativi. In all conditions, they see with equal eye, because their only consideration is the performance of bhakti, any consideration. Otherwise, without that, you get yourself get conquered by conditions of material existence. When there is too much to enjoy or too little to enjoy, then being under the influence of the condition of the environment, you don't do bhakti. So that is saying by weak-hearted sadhakas specifically. Hridaya Durbalya, they have the weakness of heart. So their bhakti, if they're not mature or they don't have real or sufficiently strong sadhu sangha, then the conditions of material nature impact them very intensely, such as like the threat of being persecuted, for example. I can understand why that would be impacting. But you'll see examples all throughout Shastra devotees being persecuted. Their bhakti is ever continuous. So because their evolving love for Krishna goes unconquered in all conditions, they're called samamatipi. And the Lord himself is conquered by that type of devotee. Saying like, wow, this devotee, even at threat of his own life, he's not giving me up. So because he is not giving me up, I will not give him up. So the Lord becomes conquered in this way. He is ajita, but he becomes jitta by a sadhu who is like this. Okay. Yeah, sadhu bir bhavan jitatma bhavata. This devotee is also described here as jitatma bi. He has fully controlled his senses. You can say because his senses are controlled by love. Okay, so even though, so that is the devotee, he is conquered by, he conquers the Supreme Lord. And then in the next line, these, the Lord is said to also conquer them. So Vijitate api, he also conquers these devotees. How he also conquers? Because these devotees, they do bhajan without the desire. So we've already described that part. Ya atmado ati karuna. So the Lord is one who gives himself, atmada. He's a giver of his own self, ati karuna, because he's got the intense mercy. He gives his own self, and by giving his own self to the devotees, he conquers them. So the idea here is that Sri Vishnu says he gives himself means he gives his form to the eyes of the devotees, he gives his fragrance to the nose of the devotees, he gives his voice, the sound of his voice to the ears of devotees, and so on. And in that way, he conquers the devotees' whole self. All their senses become subdued and conquered by the Lord. So much so, like I've been sharing this verse in the last few days, but when the gopis are cursing Providence for bringing, the embodied together and allowing them to develop friendship and love, and then separating them before they can satisfy each other fully, and therefore they experience sorrow. So in the same way, Providence has brought the gopis and Krishna together, that is the mood of Virahagita. And before they could properly enjoy, you've separated us. And then they say, first you've given us the eyes by which we can see Krishna. And then you've taken away those eyes. So Providence said, what do you mean? Your eyes are still there, only Krishna is leaving, your eyes are still there. Why are you sad taking away your eyes? Because without Krishna, then these eyes do not have a proper object of sight. These eyes are, without seeing the form of Krishna, then these eyes are blind. Or basically in love, they're saying we are blind, so we would rather go blind. Or we are blind without seeing that divine form of Krishna. It's like super sweet, statements of the love. So here Krishna has conquered the senses of the devotees by appearing before them. His form, his fragrance, his voice, his touch, everything. And this way the devotees are also conquered by Krishna. So he's glorifying the Lord as one who is, as one who is conquered and one who conquers over the devotees through bhakti. That's pretty much it. I feel like there's one other point that, because Prabhupada's purport was kind of long to this, and I don't remember all the elements. I think I got most of them. I think I got most of the points here. All right, I'm going to pause there for today. That was as far as I was able to get. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a little bit further than that. So I want to stop there and see if anyone wants to make any comment or a question or whatever. I don't think anything came in the chat box because I didn't see the chat box this morning. So if you want to say something, you can say it now, or forever hold your peace. And we can go and break a Kadashi. Actually, I already broke this one. No? Okay. So if there isn't anything, then we'll pause here for the day. All right.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, I had something to.
Okay.
I was wondering, Prabhu, today I was reading the same pastime from the beginning, and I was wondering, how is this the case that King Chitraketu, he has everything. He has great wives, a lot of wealth, and yet what he's asking for is a child. If you compare to right now society, people want wives, wealth, and they don't want the children. That's the last thing they want because it disturbs their enjoyment. It's quite the opposite situation in case of King Chitraketu. So it's not related to today's class, but I was wondering what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's the easy one. I mean, for starters, they were socialized differently than we are. So the way our generation has been socialized is that, there's too much population on the Earth planet. It should be decreased. We've been socialized like that. Prabhupada's been talking about this for years in his books. He says these demons always say there's too much population on the Earth. But he says, wherever I go, I see there's so much land everywhere that could be used, but everyone's crowding themselves in the cities and they're saying there's too much population. So the way we've been socialized is to think that there's too much population. So part of the mechanisms of programming, cultural programming, is through media. That's one of the main features of cultural programming in the postmodern world. And so the sort of TV shows that we hear, the music that we've consumed over the last few decades have presented a picture of where children are a burden. They can be killed in the womb and it's not even a problem. They're just like parasites, or those are just a clump of cells. It's not even like a real person in there. This is how the whole world has been socialized to think about life. Life is expendable. Even if you think about hookup culture, the whole bottom line of hookup culture is the same bottom line, that life is expendable. It doesn't matter. Like, relationship isn't sacred, sex isn't sacred, nothing is sacred anymore. So everything is expendable. All of life is expendable. That's the basic idea. The animal brutality that goes on is expendable. Mukund is saying, well, children are a burden. So yeah, that's how we've been socialized to think. And children are a burden. Of course, Mukund is saying practically, there's a practical restriction of the, freedom, so to speak, the so-called freedom to enjoy. But honestly, when I look at New Yorkers who are completely free of the burden of children, they're not free. There's no freedom there. Now they're over here doing, someone sent me something the other day, which I can't even repeat in the Sangha. It was so foul. They were just saying that it's a friend who's a newer devotee, and they have really bad association in New York. And they were like, sent me and another devotee. He's like, I need association because this is sort of stuff that I'm getting invited to. And then he sent us this thing. It was completely vulgar, and I can't repeat what it was here in the Sangha. So is that freedom? You give up one so-called burden, the burden of children, for this burden? It's because it's not a freedom from burden. It's another type of burden. The burden of getting the venereal diseases and spreading them here and there. I don't think that's freedom either. So that's how we've been socialized to think. Otherwise, children are, I don't know if there's many higher things you can do on the empirical platform than form life and cultural life in such a way. I don't think there's a higher service that could be done like on the material level, spiritually, bhakti, but on the material level, what can be a higher service than shaping the life of someone? In fact, that's what all these people are trying to do now. They're becoming YouTubers and influencers, and the whole idea is that they can shape lives and change lives for the better. That's the whole talking point. And with children, that's exactly what you get to do as a contribution to your society. I don't think there's really a higher service than that. So yes, like all things in the material world, it requires tapasya in order to give the best result. The other thing is that, so that's the point, they were socialized differently. And Tritaketu's time also, part of the socialization, mechanisms informed him that as a king, in order to be saved from going to the hell known as Put, then he needs a son, Putra. So Putrayate, iti Putra. So Put means hell. There's one hell called as Put. And Trayate means to protect or to deliver. So the son who delivers or protects the forefathers from going to the hell, known as Put, is called Putra. So that anxiety would have been in his mind. They were socialized to think in this way. And also to give an heir to the throne. If he is a pious king, then he wants to give an heir to the throne to see to the continuation of the flourishing kingdom. Unlike the nihilistic America that we all live in, I think most of us here are in America, where they hate their society. In the old world, people used to actually like their societies, and they wanted their societies to continue. So if you want your society to continue, you need children to do that. Usually at least 2 of them to replace the population. So having children that can save you from hell, having children by which you contribute back to the society, this would be a pretty important factor. And also to keep in mind that Tritaketu wasn't really a devotee until he got the association of sadhus. So we've been trying to keep that point. We've been bringing that point out since the beginning, because the question was, how did Vitrasura become such a great bhakta? So the story is told to answer that question. So Tritaketu was not considered as a bhakta before he got the association of Angita Muni and Narada Muni. By sadhu sangha, then his mind turned towards the absolute reality, but not before. So that means he would have been situated in the virtuous consciousness. He was a virtuous person. He thought like the social world at that time, which meant having children was like a really nice thing and an important thing, a good thing. It was dharma. So he, like this way he thinks. So naturally the children is coming. That's my answer. That's my intuition.
Excellent, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that. I was thinking on the line, on the lines of having a heir, because he has something to offer to his children. Whereas right now, people, what they have to offer is a trash society and debts. What are you going to offer to your children? It's like polluted environment, can't even eat, sleep yourself, and then what are you going to pass on? So
yeah, that is true. That is one of the main arguments of progressives and liberals. That why have children? What sort of world you are bringing them into? So that's one of their main arguments.
Yeah, and I also appreciate your point that how you're saying that anyway, everybody's carrying a burden. Is the question of which burden you want to carry. You can carry the burden of your baggy bodies and just drag them around, or give new life. That's an excellent point there too.
Let's look at the bhaktas. Look at us bhaktas who don't have the children, like me, don't have any children, but I have to also do some seva for others. Otherwise, then I'm a proper parasite. If you don't end up taking some responsibility for others, then you become a proper parasite. Actually, that means you're avoiding the yagya. So in the material life, there's at least pancha mahayagyas there. Deva yagya, rishi yagya, nir yagya, bhuta yagya, pitra yagya. So pitra yagya means a yagya to the forefathers. So part of the pitra yagya is having children. Again, to deliver you from put. So if you don't have the children, that means you're not doing the pitra yagya. So as Krishna says in Gita, for those who do not do the yagya, their life is lived in vain. They live a life only of sin, and it's lived uselessly in vain. So some yagya has to be done. If you're not going to have children, as a result of this, you can get a simple reaction where you take birth as an orphan in the next life, because you didn't have any children. So you get reaction for that, and you take birth as an orphan next life. No one will protect you. Like this, it's weird how this whole karmic thing traps. So you have to, you want to get out of this karma bandhana, then you have to do the yagya. Different yagyas there. So if you're not going to have the children, there's some other yagya has to replace it. So of course we said the yagya of Krishna consciousness, but then you got to do that kind of like fully. Otherwise, there may be reaction for not doing the other types of yagyas. So like this, so the yagya has to be embraced. And yagami comes along with the tapasya, comes along with the charity. It has to be done. So if you're not going to have the children, then okay, there's some other yagya you can do. But if you don't do any yagya, then you have to suffer the consequences. So in the next life, or maybe this life also.
Thank you, Prabhu. I appreciate it.
So, okay, anyone else wants to say?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. When you were saying that, Krishna doesn't have any reason to come here personally except to save his devotees, right? And basically, he's saving them from their missing him, right?
Yes.
So when you were saying that the devotees were complaining, we just got back together and already you're leaving again. Which pastime were you referring to?
So this prayers of gopis in chapter 39 of the 10th canto. Akrura is taking Krishna out of Braj. And so the gopis are making public protest to this. And then they begin offering these prayers, known as Viraha Gita, the song of separation from Krishna. Viraha. It starts in 1039. I think their prayers start verse 19. Several beautiful prayers.
So my question is, when they said, but you just came back from where?
No. Not that, I don't know where that came from, that just came back. I don't remember saying that. If I did, that was their first prayer, verse 19, the description is that Providence brings the embodied together and allows them to develop friendship and love. And before they can fully enjoy, then Providence separates them. And this way, he resembles like a child, playing with his toys all capriciously and whimsically, and causing so much sorrow to the embodied souls. So then they pray to Providence that you have given us these eyes by which we can have darshan of Krishna. Without the special eye, how can I see such a beautiful form? And now that you've given us those eyes, now you're taking those eyes back from us. So Providence said, what do you mean I'm taking the eyes back? The eyes you're having, so I'm just taking Krishna. But they're saying without Krishna, then they are blind. That's what the gopis were saying.
Yeah.
Without Krishna, then we are blind. So by removing Krishna, you are actually taking back that which you've given to us. So in this
by remembering him? You said by remembering? You said by remembering him?
No. What do you mean by remembering?
No. It's the transmission is not so clear. That's what's happening.
Okay. No, by removing Krishna, it is as if you're taking back these eyes that you've given to us, by which we can see Krishna.
Okay.
That's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So they say that without Krishna, we are blind. All our senses are blind.
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's prayer. Yugayitam Nameshena. Akshusha Pravishayita. Shunyayitam Jaga Sarvam Govinda Virahe. The whole universe is like void without Krishna. Like this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Sweet poetry. I can sing these songs and vandana to the deities. The deities like these songs of the gopis very much. The Radha Krishna deities, that is. Okay. Anything else? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we'll pause here for the day. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you all very much for your continued association. Ariam Tassa, thanks a lot. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Go Hari Hari.